Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Raybearer Book 2, Redemptor, chapters 34 through 36. In these chapters, Tarisai winds up getting out of the underworld, but she had me scared for a minute there. I don't know about y'all. I just didn't know what she was about to do, and she had me concerned. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Akabiole, wundesa mina walio. Akabiole, wundesa mina walio. Wundesa na, wundesa mina walio. Akabiole, wundesa mina walio. Akabiole, wundesa mina walio. Wundesa na.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
So, what did you think about this wrap-up, these final chapters?
Yeah, they had us going there for a minute there, didn't they? That sacrifice, it really seemed like she was about to just do the thing.
It's like, I knew that it wasn't going to be what I thought, but I couldn't figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
I had the same sort of reaction. Like, I knew this couldn't be it, right? Like, this couldn't be it. But, and I had mentioned in the last podcast, and we talked about whether or not there were going to be more chapters or books or sequels, and you told me that she said she plans on maybe creating in this universe, but this particular story is probably done, right? So I was like, if this is really it, then this can't be how it is. And then I started wondering, like, well, maybe she's going to do something where it does end with Tarisai's sacrifice, and then that opens up a whole new story that she's going to start telling. So yeah, she really had me going there until the very last second when it becomes clear what her and Aranti are planning to do. Yeah. But yeah, guys, it was in fact a trap. The lady is not to be trusted. Clearly, in hindsight,
trust the lady.
Mogwai's counsel was don't trust the lady, right? Like that. Mm-hmm. That was pretty much what she was saying there.
Yep. As it turns out.
I have to say. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, please. No, take it away.
I was just going to say that as I was reading these last chapters, knowing that this was the end of the book, part of me was like, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. She hasn't given us enough time to wrap the story and end this. Like, you know, and when I say, I'm going to say it felt rushed, but I don't necessarily mean that as like a criticism, like that the author failed, right?
Right.
But
I get what you mean.
This part of the story, like we spent so much time with sort of the preamble to get into the underworld, which I understand and I think was needed, right? I think we needed to have all that backstory. I think we needed to see our characters struggle. I think we needed to see Tarisai especially be really worn down by the prospect of this journey and with the Ojiji. I think all that was really necessary. So I'm not saying, you know, she's wasted too much time on that. But then once we got to the underworld, that shit just moves so fast in comparison to the front half of the book. And I think that's why I was feeling like it was being rushed, you know, just because of the speed at which the story was advancing. But yeah, the reveal, the lady, you know, like we all said, you know, that bitch cannot be trusted.
Indeed.
She was in fact being duplicitous. Had in fact intended to sacrifice Tarisai, but what I didn't expect, what Jordan ended up doing, which I thought was really clever, is that she has the lady's motivations be not just a simple quid pro quo like I had hypothesized, right? It wasn't you give us Tarisai and we let you go to court and you skip the parade, right? Or, you know, something like that.
Right.
But in layers, you know, like the lady is like, oh, I'm doing this to save the children, which, you know, was also
sounds
fair.
so noble.
Sounds very noble, and it wouldn't, you know, if the Abiku were telling the truth, what the lady did by tricking Tarisai and delivering her would have saved the children. So it wasn't even necessarily even a lie, right?
Right.
But I love that Tarisai immediately is like, oh yeah, save the children so that you have a good deed, and then that will lessen the amount of pain you feel as you're doing the parade. So ultimately, it still was very selfish and really still about the lady trying to make herself feel better. And I loved it so much because you and I had a conversation about guilt. Yeah. And this is such a good representation of exactly what I mean when I talk about how there goes my computer again. I don't know why it's doing that.
It doesn't change anything on my end.
Yeah, but it just makes it so that like I can't see you.
Yeah, you know, no, I get it. I'm just weird. Letting you know.
Yeah. It's got to be something I did in my settings. But guilt.
You're talking about guilt.
Right? So like the lady is attempting to assuage her own guilt. Right? But is still not understanding that the way to do that is by your actions and making reparations, you know. She's still just, I feel bad. I did bad things and I feel bad about myself because I did those bad things. And now I want to do something to make myself feel better, not necessarily really address the harm that you did in any real or significant way. And not only are you unwilling to address the harm that you've already done, you're willing to actually do additional harm.
That's the part that I find really funny. And I kind of wanted Tarisai to say that, like, you're about to kill your own daughter. Do you not think that it's going to manifest on the parade as a particularly horrible thing that you did? Like, how do you imagine those scales balancing that? Like, yeah, she's my daughter, but I saved so many children that mathematically it winds up evening out. Like, I don't think that's how it works.
And of course she would think it works that way because everything we know about the lady has been so transactional.
Very much.
So of course that she would do the math that way and think, oh yeah, it's all going to balance out. But
it's like a question for the good place. You know, the million trolley problems. God.
But yeah, so the chapter 34 starts with her following the lady who is taking her supposedly to this new exit, right? Because that was the deal. Like, I'm going to fly you out of here so you don't have to go up those stairs. And instead ends up dropping her in front of this statue of, is it Warlord Fire? I think it's what his name is.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's this giant statue. I love the description of it too, right? It's this giant statue and one fist is like raised in the air. She says as if like ready to smite someone. Yes. And the other hand is holding a poison tipped spear. And the tip of the spear is like done in like pearl or something or ivory or something. And Tara's like, this smells familiar. So then I was like, what is she smelling? I was trying so hard, you guys, to like make the connection before she did the reveal. I did not. I didn't. I desperately wanted it to be like my brain to like go, oh, you know what this is. My brain was like, bitch, you better keep reading.
Did not. Yeah. Same. I don't think you're really meant to. Even if you're paying pretty close attention, I don't think that's something that we were like quite aware of, that smell.
Right.
You know?
So, and the smell ends up being that one special death as well that she had encountered when she meets the beast, that she has to cross the bridge. That's what that smell ends up being. And then right as she's ready to lean in and touch this statue, the lady grabs her and pulls her back and ends up confessing everything. And that was also really surprising. And makes it even more complicated, right? Makes the lady even more complicated because she understands on some level that this is just wrong. This is not the way to go. And it takes her to that very, very last second to get there. And so,
it's so
I don't
like
know.
when she's telling Tarisai to touch it too, she's saying things like, you won't feel lonely anymore, and that should make up for Bikina House, right? Like, just really weird thought process going on there. That if I give you over as a puppet, and technically you won't be suffering cognitively, I'm making up for something. Like, what are you thinking, lady? She's thinking whatever she needs to be thinking to get herself to do this is really what it comes down to.
That's what it sounds like. Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
There was something else she says too. She says the thing about you won't feel any pain or loneliness. And Tara's just like, what? What you talking about?
She was like, I was about to touch it, but now you're making me kind of stop and ask some questions that I should have asked from the beginning.
And then we find out what the trade-off was, how the Abiku got her to do this, and the why of it, right? So this, I was all over the place trying to come up with like, what could they have offered her, And I was kind of close in that it would like lessen her pain, but I really did not think it was going to be framed this way. And then what I 100% wasn't ready for was. Okay. I was kind of ready because we knew this, right? We knew that there was something going on with the Ojiji. We knew that Tar had that experience with the one that killed Thaddeus, and how it seemed like it was out of time, like from a completely different time. So we kind of had like inklings, but I can't front. I did not get like the scope of this. Was really like mind blowing. Also, the reveal that the Abiku had been planning this literally since the very first time with Inoba the Perfect. Like, this has been a plot spanning a millennia or whatever, how long it's been,
Yeah.
And we find out that all of the Redemptors who didn't survive were not allowed to advance the core. They have just been stuck as prisoners, as I don't want to use the word zombie. She says puppets a lot when she's talking about this, but they're basically like animated corpses. So
yeah, zombie is not wrong.
They're low key zombies, right?
Yeah,
but
undead servitors.
That's just a horrific thing, though, when you think about it. Like, they've been in servitude.
I am always real freaked out by plots that are like, oh, death isn't the end. You can also be suffering and enslaved after death. Like anytime this comes up, I'm always just like, no,
right?
No.
Like, that just seems...
That's not allowed.
It just seems really, really unfair. Like I know there aren't rules to this whole thing that we are living and experiencing, but also there are some rules. There's some fucking rules, like, right? Like
I even get this way with like afterlife story. I was about to reference The Magicians, which you didn't watch, but they go into the afterlife and it's like a big airport at first, and like you go on from there, but you have to be sort of sorted into where you're going at desks with paperwork in this very sort of parochial way. And even that, I'm just like, we're not doing bureaucracy after death. We're not doing it. And it's like not actually harmful, but I reject it.
I had the same exact response when I was a kid and saw Beetlejuice for the first time. Have you ever seen Beetlejuice?
I don't remember that movie. One time.
Oh, so good. There's a whole subplot in Beetlejuice about what happens after you die, and it's very bureaucratic. And it is a waiting room with like the surliest receptionist. She's like an 80-year-old lady. She was a smoker in her real life. So her in death, she has like smoke's always coming out of like a hole in her neck, and she's like a lady that you know, like the trope of like works at the DMV or the post office, you know, like that kind of, you know, and she's just like, yeah, hun, who's next? And like there's all these different things that happen depending on how you die, but it really is just like people in a waiting room, like just there's a clock on the wall that like never moves, you know. It's like it's got a digital display of like now serving undead person 407, and then you look at your ticket and you're like person number 8,000,099,000. And I remember being a little kid and being like, wait, you die and then that? Like that's not okay.
Yeah, I
highly
just
recommend
there was
watching too.
What's that?
I just said highly recommend giving yourself a rewatch if you find it somewhere streaming. It's so much fun.
Is that the one where they sing and dance around the table?
The Banana Boat song. It's Winona Ryder.
That song.
And Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin,
Is
Gina
he in that?
Davis.
Oh my God.
Yeah, him and Gina Davis are the dead couple. And then Winona Ryder and her parents are the people that move into the house. So they're trying to haunt their own house.
Her mom is from Home Alone. Hey. It's the same actress.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah. It's so I love that movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but I think it stands up. I don't think there's anything like super problematic or gross in it that we would all be like, oh no, it's terrible.
Well, I won't blame you for it if it is.
I appreciate
We'll make
that.
a deal.
So yeah, the Abiku and these children that they have enslaved for an eternity. And we find out that how they manage to do it is that they steal these children's memories. And that basically makes them, how do they say? It's almost like stealing their souls. Like memories, you know. So
like that's the stories are who they are.
Yeah. So they're just like these mindless puppets that the Abiku are training and drilling to become warriors, because turns out the demons are wildly untrustworthy. And harbor aspirations of ruling humanity.
And it's like it's funny to me also that we saw this fake shade of Zori that was like telling her this actually, you know, but it was, and it turns out it's true. They didn't need to be telling her the truth.
Right.
I don't think part of the deal is that they just can't lie to her. Like, that's not a thing. They're not like the Fae in that respect, right?
As far as I know, that never came up. It's just the rule is just they can't touch her and they can't kill her, but they can use all manner of trickery. So the fact that part of their trickery, but you know what they say, the best lies have an element of truth to them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So maybe that was the plan.
There's something so wild about being like, I am doing something so horrible that if I pretend to be a good guy and tell you what my actual plan is, I know you will be sickened by it and do the good guy thing, because that's how terrible I am, and I am aware of it. Okay.
I also appreciated that when she has the confrontation with the Abiku, they turn into something that's closer to their truer form, which is not like these diminutive little gray beings. They're huge and
winged.
Do they have wings? They have wings, right? I had a stutter for a second because I know Melu also has wings when he shows up later, and I was thinking I was getting confused. But no, they have wings. Yeah, it's no good. None of this is good. And they're just straight up like, no, we should be ruling because we're superior. Like, I don't know why you all think that you're better than us, because you're not. We're way better than you. And we're willing to burn it all to the ground if we don't get to be in charge. And what they want is Tarisai to die so that they can basically enslave her in the same way that they have the Ojiji. But send her back up top to rule, you know, and
as if she got out. Like,
yeah, as another one
diabolical.
of their puppets. It is insane. And honest to God, all I can think to myself is when she stood up at court and offered herself, right? The Abiku must have all, just as a collective, came the hardest they've ever come in their entire existence.
100%.
Right? They had to be like, can you even believe our fucking luck?
And it makes sense now why they wanted her to have a council already.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is like it's an extension of her power. It would make her very invulnerable to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably would worry that if she hasn't got a soul anymore, it wouldn't be possible for her to build a council after, you know?
Now, what I'm curious about, and I don't know if the Abiku considered it, and it doesn't come up in the text whatsoever, but say they were successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is connected to her councils, both of them, by a ray.
Mm-hmm.
Is that are they not going to notice a difference? Is that, you know what I mean? Like,
don't know.
That sort of thing. I'm very curious about.
I mean,
like,
even if they did, she's been to the underworld. You could pass it off as any sort of thing because nobody with a ray has gone and come back. So there's no telling what kind of side effect there would be. You know?
That's true. She could probably just hand wave everything. It's just being like, oh, that's just because of my visit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very curious, like, if they're always, you know, and of course they all have ways of using mental blocks to keep people out of some of your memories, you know. But yeah, I'm curious.
And
about
you
how
had
that
asked
would
at the
work.
time, like, why the demons would agree to the deal that she was proposing to begin with, because you were like, one person, I get that she has like all of these 12 realms blood, but why would that be enough in comparison to like all these children?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a valid question, but even though it feels in retrospect like it's sort of obvious, it did not occur to me at all on my first read,
Right.
Like that they were going to use the position of power she holds in any sort of way. Which,
yeah, I know.
how could I know that they were even able to do that?
Like, again, like, yeah, like it was such a surprise. My brain hadn't gone anywhere near any of this, you know, as possibility, as potential. I was just like, didn't see it coming whatsoever. And it did, it made some other things make sense. Like, oh, yeah, okay. But I mean, there's the expression of like playing the long game. And then there's whatever the fuck this is. Like, I don't even know if playing the long game is adequate to describe what they have been putting into practice this entire time. It's really kind of staggering. Yeah, so
I want to back up just a little bit though and talk about the conversation with her mother after her mom confesses. Because her mom, like, she tries to be like, well, they said they'd let you go eventually when their work was done and that you wouldn't have suffered. She's just like telling herself all of these stories. And finally, Tarisai, when she gets right down to it, you were going to let me die so that you would hurt less. I never want to see you again. And her mother's face like crumples. And Tarisai is so annoyed because even though this woman has just done nothing but hurt her, she still feels pity in the moment for this, you know, which is such a real thing. And it's part of how people manipulate those who love them. And I still don't forgive you, Tarisai, for following your mother in the first place when you straight up said that you didn't trust her. But this moment I really understood, you know?
Yeah. I mean, everything about this conversation, her mother downplaying what Tarisai would have suffered. She tells her that she wouldn't have suffered, well, except when you first touched the stone. That would have been awful, but it wouldn't have been forever, you know? She also immediately goes, you know, to making excuses for why it's okay that she did what she did, You know, it wasn't for me. I did it for the children. I did it to make up for what I did to Wu-In. You know, it was my chance to do something good. Like, just really me. There's a lot of like I's and me's and everything that the lady says. Patrick, I did not read his Dark Materials, but I know that Natasha did. And Patrick says, I love how the lady reminds me of Mrs. Coulter from his Dark Materials, a mother figure that remained irredeemably evil but complex even till the end.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. His Dark Materials is, I covered that for those who aren't aware, with Owen, who had like a kind of up and down experience with the books. There were times where he was like, I am so into this. And then times where he felt like, what are we doing? And so, you know, the listening experience, I'd be curious to hear what people think actually. But I was...
Excuse me. There it is.
Jesus, you scared the shit out of me. I wasn't looking at the screen. So I didn't see you revving up. Oh my God.
Sorry.
I straight up thought you were screaming.
I knew it was there. I knew it was lurking. I told y'all it was lurking.
Guys, RoShawn sneezed like 6 times before we started recording and was like, there's another one coming. That bitch waited a good long time. Wow.
Well, if you interrupt the sneeze, they don't go away. They just fester until they're like the South waiting to rise again.
Oh my God. I'm just trying to picture what I would look like saying that my sneeze is like the South waiting to rise again.
Oh, you couldn't say that.
I don't feel like that's going to be received well by anybody.
Nah, you probably shouldn't.
But anyway, his Dark Materials, yeah, her mother is a real like back and forth type like this as well. And she's awful, but there are times where she'll come out of left field and you'll be like, oh, and sort of see, not necessarily like, you know, that she meant well, because I wouldn't go that far. But you see a little bit of humanity in her that can really surprise you after you've grown so used to hating her. But anyway,
well, that tracks. I mean, everything you just said about that character tracks with the lady, I think. Even
very much.
to the very end where she ends up, I want to say saving Tarisai, but that doesn't feel like, that feels like giving her too much credit, right? You can't save somebody from the danger you put them in. So exactly. she, you know, at the last minute changes her mind about letting Tarisai be hurt. But it's a good thing that she did it. You know, it's a good deed. But it, again, feels like, is it a good deed if you're the one who did the bad thing in the first place, right? So
I would say that it's not a good deed. It doesn't count because she was aware on some level she was doing wrong from the start. And it's like one thing to really have a total change of heart and have the scales fall from your eyes and you realize I was wrong about this. I don't feel like that was really the experience she was having. I think she was trying to shut up the part of her that knew better, which is why she had to leave behind her little fox spirit, because it was like not down with this game. And that is an entirely different situation.
Yep.
You know, stomping on your conscience and then finally letting it talk, that you don't get cookies for that.
Yep. And another really good example of why guilt is not the virtue that we somehow try to pretend that it is. You know, like people will legit think that because they feel guilty about doing something is an indicator that they're a good person.
Yep. I've been guilty of that myself. Ooh.
It is not.
Sorry.
And so, oh my goodness, there's this moment where she's begging Tara to understand, you know, because Tarisai is just like, I fucking forgave you. I trusted you. And you just fucking tricked me again. And the lady starts saying, you know, but I did in the end. I stopped you from touching it. I knew it was wrong, but I'm still learning. I'm trying to be a good person. And Tarisai has to say her name again because the lady is just still calling her, like, even in this, like, this explosion of supposed, like, regret and guilt and apology, she's still not even calling her by her fucking name. And Tarisai ends up just telling her, I never want to see you again. And she says the little girl's face crumpled as though I'd punched her. And that's when the moment you talk about where, like, she still has pity. And for this incredibly damaged person in front of her that looks like a little girl, but is in fact her mother, but was never even really a mother in any of the sense of the way we say the word or what we think the word's supposed to mean. And she says to Tarisai in response to her saying, I never want to see you again. This was so hard. She says, you will see me again in Core. That's where everyone goes after Igungun's parade. And when you do, I'll be better, a good person. I'll show all of you, you'll see. And for that to be her response is devastating, I thought. Just,
there's so much about this conversation, like that being her response. Also the fact that she's saying, I'm trying to be a good person and I'm still learning, which is a very accurate representation of what a lot of people will do when they're trying to manipulate you into not having any boundaries, is they'll play on the fact that you want them to be better and they know you want that, and they can tell themselves that's what they're doing even, which is clearly what the lady is also participating in. And they can basically guilt you into giving them another chance. Like, if you don't, you are denying them the opportunity to be better instead of being better regardless of what the person you harmed has agreed to do. Like, that has nothing to do with it.
100%.
You should just be trying regardless and accept the boundaries that they put up no matter what those happen to be, because you acknowledge you harmed them and they get to put up those boundaries. But they will pretend like their improvement is contingent on you making space in your life for them, which is just not a requirement at all.
And the flip side of what you're saying is, if you in fact don't make space for them and they fail to continue to be a good person, it's your fault because you didn't accept them back or make space or whatever, you know.
Believe in me.
Then it becomes, the burden is on you now. It's all your fault that I'm backsliding or not being a good person or re-engaging whatever bullshit I was doing in the first place, you know. It's incredibly manipulative. The fact that this is a mother saying it's to her daughter, again, is just devastating. And then you add the sort of stakes of where they are and what's just happened and what lays in the balance. And you're just like, holy fuck. But Tar says, basically, you know what? I hope so. And then the lady says, well, you know, I can still help you leave. And I don't even know what to do with this. Tarisai does, because she's just like, stop fucking lying. But you guys, I don't even know if I think she's lying. I don't think she is lying. Yeah, right?
No, I don't think she's lying. She points out the breach, and like Tarisai can see the Ojiji going through it and realizes like, oh, they're already going to the surface and fighting. So it's pretty clearly happening, but it's just at this point, even if she is telling the truth, Tar just can't make room for her anymore. She wasted her shot. And she's just like, when Tar says stop lying, she says, I'm not The breach is real, but it's not the stone. It's there. I could fly you down. It wouldn't take long. You could go back home. Please, Tarisai, it's the least I can do. Then she smiled her famous smile as her eyes searched my face, hungry for absolution. And I really appreciated that because it's still tempting to be like, oh, she's realized she fucked up and she wants to make it right. But you see, it's not about making it right for the sake of it. It's because she wants the points. It's just about the points.
And again, not to beat a dead horse, but this is that thing where, like, you tell somebody you feel guilty about something that you're not doing, right? Or that you did. And you tell the person about the guilt you feel about the thing because what you want them to say to you is, you don't have to feel guilty about that anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're looking for when you tell somebody, oh, I meant to call you and I haven't called you in, months. This is just like an example. Like for me, I'll use a real life example. Like, so I have a lot of guilt around the amount of time I spend with my mother. I always feel like I should be doing more. I should be spending more and more time with her. My mom likes to do a lot of things. She likes to go out. I told you guys, my mom went to Pride. My mom went to Pride on Sunday, and like I overslept, and she went without me. But
good for her.
Yeah, right. I'm so glad she went, and I felt like such an asshole for oversleeping. But I was so tired, and she wanted to catch the bus at like 8. It was an 8:50 a.m. bus, y'all.
What the hell's happening at Pride at that hour?
On Sunday, because the kickoff march was at 10 a.m. And so she wanted to be down at Independence Hall in time for the kickoff. And it's Sunday, so the buses only run once an hour. And then where I live, I live way out here. So for her to get down there in time for that, she needed to be on like the 8:45 bus. So I just, it wasn't happening for me, y'all. And normally I would feel a lot of guilt about that. And so what I realized is that, and I don't share my guilt with my mom, because if I feel guilty that I'm not spending enough time with my mom, the answer isn't tell her I feel guilty because I don't spend enough time. So then she could then say, oh, I understand. You work, you're tired, you record. The action to fix that guilt is making more time to spend with my mother, right? And until I do that, the guilt I feel around it is just me in my head feeling guilty. Either I can do the thing to make the guilt go away, or feel guilty. But me telling her,
it's irrelevant. Yeah,
exactly. Me saying, oh, I don't spend enough time with you and I feel really guilty about it is just me asking her for absolution. Please make me feel better about this thing that I'm doing that I feel bad. You know what I mean?
Yep. Definitely.
So that's what this moment really felt like. Just again, it's nothing that the lady does is ever really about Tarisai.
Nope.
It just, as a mother to a daughter, it just never is. It's like, and it's so funny because I'm about to say all she does is look. All she sees when she looks at Tarisai is that she's looking in a mirror. But then you think like she literally just calls her made of me. And you're like, of course that's all she sees is a reflection of herself whenever she looks at Tar, Yeah. And it's just such a fucking heavy thing to talk about,
It's like Tar was never really fully a person to her. It's so bizarre, but yeah.
Yep. And then Patrick in the chat is mentioning, and I was just going to say it too, the selfishness in that sentiment. You'll see, I'll be good. That's not something a good air quotes person says.
Right. You're not trying to like prove other people wrong out of spite. You're trying to be good because you're concerned about right and wrong and morality. And if all it is you want to be able to give people the finger
then
because
you
they
missed
were
the
wrong
plot.
about you. She's remarkable.
Right. I've got some news for you, lady. So yeah, she tells her mom goodbye. She's for real this time. And the lady starts to speak. She cuts her off and says, I'll see you in core. She closes her eyes, and it's about a beat or two later, and she looks up, and the lady is gone, and that is the last we see of her.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll show up at some point in another story and be in core, and we'll be like, oh, wow, she really did. But I'm not holding out a lot of hope. I feel like if you have literally waited until the afterlife to make shit right, that's a real uphill battle you're trying to fight.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's been a lot of talk about the, what we think the afterlife's going to be in a way of like memes and funny cartoons with Pat Robertson dying.
Oh my God.
I can't believe that motherfucker got to live to 93. Like, I don't know even what this world is.
Evil just thrives.
They really just, it feels like it lives forever. It's really disgusting. But there's all kinds of like jokes and stuff.
That it's basically the universe being like, I'm going to give you more time to fix this. Like, you have fucked up so bad. Here are some more years. You could do something. Nope, here's, okay, 5 more. That's the best I could do. 2 more years. All right, fine. Oh my God.
This guy just won't get it together.
Literally anything. Meanwhile, good people, the universe is like, all right, you could come home now. That was pretty good. Solid. Well done.
Yep. Gave you a solid 45 years.
Yep.
Yeah, he's out here fucking 93 years. But yeah, all like the little jokes about what it's going to be like when he gets to heaven, or when he gets to wherever he thinks he's going to go. And then, and I saw things like, he'll get to heaven, but he'll see the people that are closest to God are all the people that he demonized and actively brought harm to their communities. And that will be his sort of like, punishment or penance. I saw jokes about him getting to pearly gates, and they're looking at the book and he's not in there, and they're like, oh, who's going to tell him? All these different sort of imaginings of like what is in store for him. None of them, I thought, accurately portrayed what I would like to be in store for him.
What would you like to be in store for him?
I think,
want to just like some medieval shit.
No, not just that though. I want him
butthole spiders
to. Well, that I mean, those should definitely be on the agenda. but no, I would want him to hear God, the God that he imagined existed. So it's a God that looks exactly like he expected God to look, right? I would like for everything that he believed to be true about the afterlife and God and Jesus to be accurate, and for them both to tell him explicitly how he fucked up. Like from the horse's mouth. Like I want him to hear from the exact God that he worshipped and have that thing say to him, you were awful. You were the very worst of what I wanted from humanity. You could not have been more of a disappointment if I had given you another fucking 100 years. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want.
I'm very much on the Gungun's parade side of things, where I am a big fan of the self-judgment, where you suddenly get clarity and get to see the harm you did other people, and
that's always
there's
good.
No escaping the revelation, because it's not about your capacity when you were a person. Your capacity to understand is expanded after death. So now it all is real in a way that it wasn't. So you don't need anybody to tell you, because now you have empathy all of a sudden. And that, to me, having gone your whole life without it, and then you suddenly have it and see for real what you did. I mean, I don't feel like it gets worse than that.
That's very
Which is
good.
basically aging.
Yeah.
Like,
but see, that's the thing, though. He aged all the way to fucking 93. See, that's the thing.
I know,
too.
but I'm talking about like if he were like a real human being and not.
Oh,
a
right.
demon.
Right,
You know,
right,
like
right,
for most of us, that's what happens. You grow older and you're able to look back at things you did and be like, that was so shitty. Oh my God.
Mm.
And at the time, I just didn't really get how fucked up that was. But now I see that was really fucked up.
Right.
And you grow as a person and get better. And it just seems like some people don't have that capacity in life. That's what I want, for them to suddenly get it. You know, can you imagine if Donald Trump suddenly had self-awareness? Like true self-awareness? Because that is a man who is absolutely completely disconnected from reality. Like, he lives in a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete construct that he has built around himself of a new world that he likes better, that he would rather live in.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything more devastating to a person like that than not getting to live in your construct anymore.
I think the thing that trips me up about that is my ability to really 100% accept. I am in denial still about the level of delusion that these people have, right? So I always suspect that people like Pat Robertson are fully aware of their bullshit, right? I always suspect that they already fucking know. They already know. And then what they do is convince themselves that it's okay to be the shitty people they have chosen to be, because they have thrown in 100% into the fantasy that they are serving whatever version of righteousness that they have designated for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's why
I agree with all of this.
That's why I want the version that they think they serve, that excused all that behavior, to tell them, oh yeah, no, I'm real. Oh yeah, I exist. You just really got it all wrong. Like, you were literally wrong about every fucking thing.
I think what I struggle
you.
with in that scenario is that these are people who doubt the source of anything they hear that they don't want to hear. So I'm imagining Pat Robertson getting told by God, you were a disappointment who fucked up royally, and him being like, fake news, this is definitely not actually God. Where is the real God who would be very happy with me? I'm not going to be fooled, devil. I know you come with a beautiful face and hide your true self, and that's clearly what's happening here. Like,
yeah,
if
that's
they
why
continue with that same personality, they just bury their head in the sand more.
Yeah. And that's why it has to be like irrefutable that this is the thing that you claimed that you knew and understood, you know. But either one, honestly, I don't think it gets better than what she describes in the parade. I think if you're going to go for I think she really nailed it.
Agree.
You know, like, it's just, I think she just really, really got to the heart of what we all want, which is basically kind of what you described as well, which is an understanding in a real, undeniable way. Everything that you put out comes back to you, you know, which is, I think, sort of like a tenet that exists already in some religions, you know, or dogma, you know. I also like that, at least here, like when we get to the chapter where they kind of encounter the parade, that was really cool too, actually.
Oh yeah,
right?
I forgot about that.
And,
yep.
And so all right, so the lady disappears, and Tarisai immediately calls for Aranti, and she comes right up. I love this so much. She's like, "Thank you for not saying I told you so."
Aranti is so irritated. She's like, "You get that out of your system? Are you done entertaining this yet again?"
The description of her arrival as she plodded towards me with long-suffering dignity. I laughed so hard at that. because because like y'all just met. It hasn't been that long.
She's already sick of your shit.
And she's already sick of you. I really, really laughed at that. That just really got me. I love this. And it just says she huffed a sigh. And so then Iranti starts saying, you know, a friend coming, and Tarisai is like, yeah, we'll always be friends. And this bitch is like, that is not what I said. I don't know why, but I just really loved I wish she had showed up so much early in this book. I would have been here for like their adventures. Like I would read.
That was like the main criticism I saw of the book, was that everybody wanted her to spend more time in the underworld. They felt like it was over too quickly. Yeah. And this like lovely relationship didn't really get a chance to completely blossom and whatnot.
I really liked the and I guess it shouldn't have been a surprise because we'd seen it with Wu-In, we've seen it with Yeon. But I was really, really happy in the final chapter when she's back up top and Iranti is still around. I was like, oh, thank God. I don't know why I didn't just assume that would be the case, right? But when she leaves the underworld, one of the things I felt immediately was like, oh, Iranti, I'm not going to see her anymore. And like, of course I am. But so friend is coming, and it is Young who shows up, and I was like, word?
Yeah.
She can just be down here?
She jumped in again.
Okay. And
and she's basically here to be like, what did you do?
Yeah. She's like, what the fuck happened?
You had one job, which was to not let us get eaten alive by demons. I thought you did it, and now here come all these demons. What have you fucked up? Because it's definitely your fault somehow.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that's different, you know, between before the zombies came and the zombies being here is you. You went to the
exactly. I mean, like, logically, I would certainly come to the same conclusion.
Right? I feel like if you're going to wager a guess, this was a really good fucking guess.
Definitely.
And so, so what happened, it turns out, is that the minute that Char jumped into the breach, basically, these motherfuckers just let the OGG out.
Yep.
Just sent them upstairs. Which I feel like is a real breach of contract.
I thought so, too. I don't really get how this contract works, that this is like, she hasn't taken your deal yet, and she's held up her end of things. And I guess it's just meant to be that, like, yeah, she held up her end of things so that we wouldn't keep taking sacrifices, and we're not. Yeah. That's not what this is.
That's the best. I mean, that is just like, and this is okay. If I'm going to give a criticism, my criticism would be, I don't think we as readers got a fully fleshed out understanding of how the Abiku work. Yeah. Like what their deal is, you know, how they function, what the sort of rules are for them as beings. You know what I mean? It just feels very sort of like loosey-goosey, you know?
Agree.
And that could be, and you mentioned Faye like once or twice so far, that could be maybe because in some other stories, like Dresden, for instance, there's such a good understanding of what the rules are and how the different beings operate, you know, what they can do and what they can't do, you know, and all that sort of stuff. It's
very definitive.
Yeah, and this one was not. So often there were a couple of different moments where I was just like, wait, how can they do that? That doesn't.
They're allowed? Yeah.
And maybe
it's like Democrats watching the Republicans.
You know what? I was about to make a very similar fucking thing. You know, like that could, like, there's nothing in the world that says, you know, there are rules.
The dogs can't play basketball.
Right? So,
I'm sorry, guys. There was a whole Airbud conversation that RoShawn and I had in another show. This is kind of a callback to that. I will not get into it again, I promise. But that's the spirit of what we're doing here again.
Yeah. It's just, but you and I, and we've talked about this. I think we've both been very honest with listeners about how we are built as people. You and I like rules.
Yes.
We like to know where a thing is, what a thing does, what are the expectations of said thing. You know what I mean? Like, we just operate in that way. So that does not mean that the rest of the world is going to, or that demons are going to, and maybe I shouldn't be expecting them to. Maybe that's my bad.
Oh, we've had a lot of it. We've just been talking about how much it's been drilled into our heads that things in the afterlife usually rely on bureaucracy. And now we've got these guys who just sort of throw the rule book up in the air, light it on fire. So I think, you know, as much as we're like, no bureaucracy after death, a part of us is like, except when I need it because it comforts me. I would like to be able to exploit it, please.
I'm not saying I want to be in the airport after I die, but I do appreciate the fact that there's a system in place.
Exactly. If it's
I don't
like
necessarily
an airport
want to be
versus a yawning chasm, I'm gonna take the airport. Like, come on.
So Tar takes Yun's memories to get sort of caught up to speed. I love that as a shortcut too. I really do.
It's
I
great.
Really do love this sort of like, all right, let me just get caught up to speed real quick and see what the fuck's going on. It's like, I guess, opening like Twitter, trying to see what the fuck everybody's gonna rage about. So you go to Twitter just to see what the trending topic is, and you can know what everybody's talking about.
Oh my god, who's today's Twitter villain? Let me see what's trending.
Apparently today is that chick, the basketball player porn star fiasco thing that's going on.
I haven't seen that.
She's the villain of the day. I went to Twitter for some other reason, and my whole feed was talking about this chick. Her name is like Mariah Mills, I think, and the dude's name is Zion something. I don't know.
Zion.
I don't know the particulars, but from what I gather, he is a famous rich basketball player, and she is a former porn actress, and there may or may not be a pregnancy or several in the mix. And for reasons I don't understand, she's the bad guy, but I don't know why she's the bad guy, other than the fact that apparently she's just been complaining about being like upset that he's having another baby with someone else or something. Somehow she's the bad guy. I'm not really sure what she did other than just being like a sex worker who I guess thought she had something real with someone.
I was about to say, yeah, she's a woman. She's a sex worker. That's what it takes to be the bad guy.
Apparently, that's what it is. But like, if I, but I could be missing a lot of context. So you guys, I don't know. But yeah,
it's like the misogyny never fails. It really doesn't.
Every tweet was just like, why is she still talking about this? It's been 2 days. I'm like, really? 2 days? That's it? That's all we get? We get 2 days? Wow.
This news cycle is brutal, man. Oh my God. Honestly, though, that is kind of like the way that time works now because of the news cycle. I mean, there'll be things where people will bring up like, I remember that lady with the pink sauce. That was 3 weeks ago. Sauce. And you're like, 3 weeks ago? That was literally half my life ago. What are you talking about? Shit does not make sense anymore. So I guess 2 days feels reasonable when...
The lady with the pink sauce. That's such a...
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Of course I do. What a weird time to be alive, man. I'll tell you what.
It is. I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what. So she gets caught up to speed. It is not looking good. These OGG children are. It's 10,000 of them. It's so many of them that they are a rival to the entire army of the realm. You know, and they're fighting, but you can't win because every time you knock one down, there's 10 more right behind it, and you can't kill them. They are already dead. So this is going to be like what is that expression? Like a war of attrition. Like eventually they're just going to overrun our good friends in this situation. And so where is I feel like, when do the Abiku show up and actually start talking to Tarisai? That's coming up next, right?
I think it's right after she starts talking to Yin.
Okay.
Because,
I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the spot exactly. Here it is. Oh, right. Okay. She asks how long it's been. 2 weeks. She sees the memory and is just like, holy shit, I didn't know they were just going to do this. And Yin says, what did you do? It didn't start when I came here. The Abiku have been planning this for a long time. And you, Wurola, hissed a triad of rasping voices, have the power to stop it.
All right, here we go. So this is when they show up. I had forgotten that Yuen was still standing there when they show up. For some reason, I was thinking this was something that was just happening to Tarisai. But no, she's got a witness right there. Which is another weird thing. You feel like they wouldn't want to do this with witnesses. But the Abiku will just be out here doing whatever.
Probably just keep her there.
Right? So basically, they're like, you know what? We're going to give you the same offer that we gave your mom. You can fucking sacrifice yourself and save all of these children. You know, just give your memories to the shrine, they ask her. And once you do that, you go up top, you be our empress, like we talked about already. Specifically, they want her to revoke the treaty. That's a very important part of this deal.
Yes.
It's not just her up there being a puppet, but they want her to revoke the treaty and basically just weaken the realm. And I love this. In return, we will use our powers to destroy the shrine, freeing your memories and those of the Yojishi army. And she is like, really? You would do all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you give up your army? You know, you're already winning. What is really what you're trying to get here, you know? Because give it some time and you guys are going to just fucking run right over the entire continent. So, like, I don't get your fucking point. Yeah. And this is when they hit us with the 1-2. Turns out, I love this. You misunderstand our goal. Well, yeah, of course we all misunderstand your goal because you haven't been very honest about what you want to fucking do. Right?
Yes.
Like the nerve. You misunderstand us. Jesus fucking Christ. This is like every person I work with too. This is the energy that the people I work with bring to me. You don't make yourself clear and then you tell me I misunderstood you. But that's a different conversation. So they tell her that they're not interested in getting rid of humanity. They are interested in ruling, which is, in their minds, their right. And that they want to rule over what they call the overworld. And they're going to get strong like they were at the beginning of time, which I'm super curious about that.
Yeah.
And then she says, as they're talking, their eyes glittered, gray faces taut with longing. So, like, just them even talking about what they want, she can see, like, how greedy they are about it. You know, they want it bad. And they're like, but we're only going to do any of that if you revoke the accursed treaty. And they are basically just feeling like they got bamboozled into this treaty. They got
hilarious.
The short end of the stick. They got a raw deal and have been plotting ever since to undo it. And they are saying that this is the only option. If she doesn't, in fact, do this, then they're willing to just let loose and just let whatever happens upstairs happen. If it means everybody dies, everything burns, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's where they are. And she starts thinking...
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean... What are you thinking?
I don't know. I get what she's doing here. There's a part of me that feels like just letting it all burn isn't actually what they would do. Like, they've put so much work into developing this little child army that I have a hard time believing that they'd be like, oh yeah, we're just going to keep throwing these kids at you until there's nothing left. And even the land that we wanted to rule, which was our whole goal, is like leveled. I just don't see that being what they do.
You think that they're bluffing? Or you think this is a misstep in storytelling?
I feel like... I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I can't decide which one. But there's something about it that for me didn't totally hit about this motivation. And
okay.
It's not like I don't believe that they want to run shit. I think this is coming down actually to what you said, which is that you don't feel like the Abiku are given enough stage time. So understanding what it is they're after is difficult because and how they function is difficult because they are an unknown quantity. So I think that just being like, we want to run shit because we consider ourselves your superiors, it's so generic a motivation that's where it falls a little bit flat for me. You know what I mean?
Okay. No, I do. I understand that. I get that. I mean, it's difficult for this to really like resonate with us because we don't know the Abiku in a real way. So I don't know if she could have given them any kind of motivation in this circumstance that would feel like more right, you know, because of the fact that we're only learning about them at this very late stage of the game. I don't know if she could have plopped anything in there that would have been like truly satisfying, you know? Plopped. I know. As soon as I said it, I regretted it. Apologies.
I don't have a problem with the word. It was just like, I don't know.
I mean,
there's nothing like disrespectful about it.
I kind of have a problem with it, like using it in that way. Like, I don't know why I would do that to myself or to you all. You all don't deserve that. Apologies. But so this is the deal. This is what they want. These are the terms. She either agrees to do this or they're just gonna set fire to everything. And they also make her choose right in this moment.
Yeah.
I will say this didn't occur to me in my first reading, but as we're talking about it and I'm looking at it, this description of the Abiku, with their wings smoldering in a dark green flame, and I'm just like, are these like related to Abiku in any kind of way? Like, are they? Ooh. I wonder if there's like some kind of weird origin story where there was a split, and maybe some guy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but
Isn't that what are jinn? Are they like fallen angels?
In what, like? Oh, in like the jinn. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I'm sort of wondering if it's because she uses the word jinn in the book, in the first book.
In the first book, yeah. I'm all I remember. You know what's funny? I read American Gods and I watched the show, and I cannot remember what the jinn backstory was. But there was a jinn included, and it was called American Gods. So
I'm looking it up. It says Muslim mythology includes angels and also the spirits known as jinns, which are described in the Quran as being able to interact with people despite being made of smokeless fire. jinns are known for having free will and for being either good or evil like humans. The word comes from the Arabic jinn, a plural noun that means both demons or spirits, and also literally hidden from sight. So maybe that is like the sort of, they're two extremes on the same, what's the word I want? They're both they're two different genuses of the same species.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I just like, just this, like, I'm reading the description now, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But either way, they're demanding an answer right now in the moment. There's no time really for her to figure out all her options, we think, as we're reading, right? It doesn't seem like there's any time. And it does say, I ran puzzle after puzzle, desperate to craft a solution, but every single answer to this problem involved a deadly sacrifice. So that really does set us up to think she has tried to think of all the different ways to be out of this and could not come up with anything.
Yep.
Which lends itself to us really believing that the sacrifice is what it looks like on its face, because she feels
tricksy.
Like she's very
tricksy.
Little
minx.
Mm-hmm. So she agrees to the deal. And UN is just like, doesn't like want her to do this.
Very much like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah. She's like, there's got to be another way. And Tar just kisses her and says, don't worry. No matter how bleak the world gets, I'll make sure you always have a corner to plant flowers. And then we go right into what looks like Tarisai about to sacrifice herself. She has her auntie take her back over to the statue, the warlord fire. So she's back where the lady had taken her.
Mm-hmm.
And she says for a world we're surviving in, which is what we're all familiar with that. She's been saying that to herself since she had that moment in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's feeling really like, oh, we're doing this.
This is ultimately
fucking do it. Like, and it was all leading to this moment too, right? Starting to feel like we were never going to be anywhere but here.
Yeah.
And so she touches the spear, screams. It's so much pain. It is so much pain immediately. All I could think was, the lady thought this was insignificant. She thought this was like a real minor little detail.
She was like,
fucking horrifying.
For like a second. She's like a fucking gynecologist inserting an IUD. Minor pain. It's
fucking doing
everybody
a biopsy.
Else acted like it was fine. So
mild discomfort.
It's so angry. Oh my God. My mom sent me yesterday a clip off of, I think it was a reel on Instagram. And the sound, you know how the people will like lip sync over the sound from like a TV show or something?
Mm-hmm.
And the sound is from a moment on Parks and Rec where Leslie is asking Ben to explain something. And he goes, well, see, the reason is, and she says, yeah, because, yes, explain. And then he just runs away. You just hear his footsteps like in the background, like as he sprints away. And it was a doctor in the hall of a hospital. And the subtitle was, when she asks you why her husband got an anesthetic for his vasectomy, but she didn't get one for her IUD insertion. So it's just him going, because sprints away. I just think it's funny how,
right?
I
can't believe that. I saw a TikTok of a woman, and it's not funny actually, but she was just out in her car after having an exam at her gynecologist, and she got a biopsy. Was it a biopsy? I can't remember, but it was so painful. Because they get they go right all up in that joint, right? And they don't give you anything for that. I've had them.
Mm-mm.
No good. It's no good. It is so pain, and they always
Guys, they're cutting off a piece of your internal organ, and they're just going ahead with it.
they're just up in there, y'all.
Yeah.
They're just up in there.
And
they don't give you anything.
nothing.
They tell you, they usually, the first time I had it done, it was a male doctor, and he literally was like, you're just going to feel a tiny pinch.
Yep.
A pinch.
Mine said it may feel like the kind of pain you get with menstrual cramps. Yeah, no. No, it was not.
Yeah.
And they also like have said not to take, because people will be like, well, you pop an ibuprofen beforehand. I was told not to do that because it increases bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I didn't even know I should take one. Like, I didn't do any kind of research. There was no Google, and the internet wasn't as robust as it is now the very first time I had one done. So I didn't, Matter of fact,
I
don't
only
even
heard
think
that
mine
afterward.
was scheduled. Yeah, mine wasn't like scheduled. Mine was kind of like as part of my visit, or whatever. It was.
Gotcha.
I remember being like kind of surprised that we were going to that, but he was just so casual. Just a pinch.
Yep.
This woman in the TikTok was in tears from the pain, but also how unprepared she was, because they just, again, you barely feel anything. And so she thought she was overreacting, and she's like, is there something like, why am I having such a hard time? It must be me.
That's the thing. That's the part that makes me the most sick, is that I had that as well. When I got the IUD, I fainted. And I thought it was me being a baby. Come to find out, that is not unusual at all.
Mm-hmm.
But they act as if all of us are just little bitches whining about nothing collectively, and that we must be making it up.
Yep.
They've gaslit us all.
Yep.
Like, it's sick.
Yep.
It's sick.
Yep. Yep. It's so pervasive. And it is... And of course, the comments were just filled with woman after woman being like, "You're not overreacting. I've had it. It's fucking awful. They don't prepare you."
Yep.
The second time I had it, I fucking took a fucking Valium type of. I think I wasn't on Valium. I was like, I want Ativan or whatever. I took an anti-anxiety pill before the next one I had.
Yep.
But yeah. It's fucking medical industry. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so Tarisai
circling back.
herself.
And the lady really undersold it. It sounds awful. She says that the pain enveloped her skin like a wave of crackling acid. I was dying. It was killing me, grasping at everything I was, hungry to extract every memory, every day and hour. This is the pain of both touching the spear, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also like the physical pain of like what it felt like for her hand to touch it, but also the experience of it trying to take all of her memories from her, to empty her out,
erase her as a person, basically.
Yeah, like an undoing of her,
Mm-hmm. We're just gonna reformat this hard drive real quick.
Yeah, like the sort of fucking like I picture. Who is that? I thought I could hear Sam for a second. I thought I heard Sam.
Oh, I think Owen's in the backyard playing with Pippin.
Oh.
And our neighbor dogs are always very jealous when they see him getting played with and stand there and cry. So this is probably, you're hearing one of the sad neighbor dogs that breaks my heart every day. That's
what I hear, yeah, because it's definitely like a puppy whine. Oh, poor thing.
You guys, it's so hard.
I can't imagine that. Now that's the kind of shit like you talk about, like the eyes and you being a mark. That crying sound, I cannot. Mm-hmm. I am just like, what do you need from me? How can I help?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I must be a monster.
Yeah, that's hard. But yeah, so this thing is undoing her, and is a moment where she says, in only one instant more, it could have me. It would all be over. I'd fall into a deep, dreamless sleep. My soul, a slate wiped clean. And then it turns. She clenches her fist. She yells at Aranti now. And with a burst of heat, she magnified my hallow as I thrust it into the statue, inverting the shrine's power, taking its memories before it could take mine. And I said, what?
Exactly. Exactly. That was a real word sort of moment.
So this process is also really painful, right? Because she's still connected to the statue. So it's not like the pain stopped, because now she's the one taking the memories. This is still horrible. And there's a moment where she says that I watched my finger pale as the life leached out, and I knew that bitch was gone. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But like,
it's
there's
such
a real
a
moment.
thing, like, oh, you lose your hand. That's your sacrifice in whatever big moment. And I sort of liked that she was like, I'm going to do that, but like, just a finger. I'm not going to make it a whole hand. I don't feel like it. I like
I'm
that
not doing
better.
all that. Yeah, I'm not doing all that. And she gets all the memories because the statue is what has been holding all the memories that have been stolen from all these children, right? They're all housed in this thing.
I'm making a lot of hard drive jokes, but like, yeah, basically. This is her time machine that's built into the laptop of the children's brains.
So she is, I guess, downloading then from the cloud. I don't know. I don't just
I think that's like accurate.
But so she is getting the memories of 10,000 lives all coming into her at one time, and she's seeing everything. It's like just going back so many years. And by the time the Abiku realize what she's done and what she's doing, one, they can't do shit about it because they can't really hurt her, right? Because that's
my favorite. They're standing right there, and they can't do anything.
They can't do anything but yell about it.
Sucks to suck.
And it really, that is the energy of that moment. It sucks to suck. Sucks to suck. But so once she has everything in, she just sort of collapses because she just put in a lot of work.
Yep.
And she tells Yuen as she catches, because she collapses and she actually catches her a little bit before she like fucking goes all the way down, I think. Or is that, no, she doesn't catch her at all. She collapsed and doesn't break her fall. That's what it is. She just goes right down to the ground.
I was about to say, I thought I remember her being like, I felt like a tree, basically.
She planted. And then she tells her, she says, it's your turn now. And she tells Yuen, you can save them, the Redemptors, all of them. And me and Yuen are just like, how?
Yeah.
How? Because
what do you mean?
The fucking water bending, I'm going to call it water bending because I can't remember what they call it here. And I know about water bending because I spend too much time on the internet. But I don't know exactly what it's from. It's from Avatar: The Last Airbender, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if I'm using this correctly, but this is my interpretation of what that expression means. Because I've never seen any. Whenever I hear people talk about airbending and waterbending, I'm like, oh, they can make air and water do cool shit. They can control it and do things with it. And that is the extent of my knowledge.
That's basically it. You're right. You got it.
So this is what I figure she's doing with the water, right? So Tar puts her finger into the water and then just releases all the memories she's just soaked in from the shrine into this water, this amethyst lake. And then Yuen pulls it up out of the lake, like all the water, like just scoops it all up with her Songland power, and then just like floods it out over to where all the children are. All the Ojiji
It was so weird to me because I just don't feel like we need a medium to carry the memories. You know, like they can't just travel through the air? And she just pulls them out and like, I don't know, but I guess we do.
I don't, the way I think the only reason that I didn't have more questions about this part of it was because every time Tarisai is sharing memories that I can think of, she's always touching the person, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I was like, well,
Yeah.
maybe some type
So it's
of
like a contact.
you know,
Okay,
but
I accept
that's
it.
the
I reverse
best
my
I
ruling.
could do. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, she all the water out, floods it into the Ojiji, and as the memories, as the water, plus also you gotta love that fucking visual and that sort of like that theme of like water washing over you and cleansing you and awakening you and all that. You gotta love that.
Definitely.
You know.
Yep.
So I can see what she, as a writer, it'd be hard to resist that.
And also, you know, she wants to tie Yun into the solution, I think, and make it so that it isn't just Tarisai, it's somebody who's been wronged handling it, and so it's a good way to like involve her.
And I love what Tarisai says to her. She tells Yun that you're the hero of their story, talking about the Ojiji, right? It's for you to save them. And she also tells her that, like, she says, I had to undo what my ancestors did, but the song of the Redemptors was never mine to finish. And I really like that. I really, really do like that. It's a very full circle kind of moment. And I always appreciate that. It can be like, some people are like, oh, it can be kind of hacky, but no, I appreciate a full circle. You know,
agree. And I'm always a big fan of like the person who was wronged ultimately gets the killing blow, so to speak.
Yep.
You know, it's just
exactly.
It's not satisfying for them to just be rescued. You want them to have a moment of catharsis. It's important.
Absolutely. And I love too, because Tarisai, without Yun's help, would not have even made it as far as she did in 100%, the underworld, right?
Yep.
So I like the idea of the hero of the story being the person who actually, not that Tara didn't do like important parts of this bit, you know, obviously she did, but it's really Yun here who is the hero of this, even before this moment with the water. Like, she is the one who enabled Tara to even make it this far. So I just really liked that it came back to being in her hands. The freeing of these children who she was, you know, could have been one of. She was one of, to a certain extent, you know, barely escaped this fate. So yeah, and then as all the children are restored, I love that it says Tara doesn't get to see this really. Because she says that she lay on the island, I couldn't see the Redemptors, but later through Yun's memory, I got to see like what happened. And it was thousands of children gasping with joy and pain as their souls were restored. And released at last, their cloud of laughing shades flew to the parade. I love that so much. Letting the prison-like cages of their bodies crumble to dust. I mean, I just like... Yeah, they don't come alive, right? But they come alive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then they just are laughing and filled with joy as they are making their way finally to whatever this next step is, which for them isn't even court. It's just a fucking parade, you know?
Yeah.
But
it's like finally
it's the next step.
Movement forward.
Finally movement forward. I loved it. I loved it. And then outside the city, everybody who is fighting this army of dead children are just like, what the fuck? Because they just start disappearing and like a river of amethyst.
So surreal. What a fucking world to live in, where it's like, General, undead children coming up from underground. I'm really sorry. I know your girlfriend is currently in the underworld, but we've got dead children here. General, update. Dead children disappearing, we think? Not sure.
River.
They're just dropping.
Purple river from out of nowhere. Purple water everywhere. We don't know where it came from, and now it's gone.
It's just like truly wild shit.
I was like trying to imagine like just like infantry level soldiers like at the bar talking about what the fuck the day was like.
Yep. Like, were you in the first shift or the second shift?
Right.
The second shift. I'm soaking wet, dude, and I have weird dreams.
Oh God, that's funny. Um, so then they come back to Tarisai when Yuen is done, and they're laughing, and Yuen's eyes are bright and childlike as the day I'd first met her. It's over, she said. I did it. They're free. We all are. And then this is when she has to take the finger because that shit is in bad shape. And she does have the poison in her, and it will kill her if it spreads.
Yeah.
So that finger has to go. And then we move into the last chapter, which is a little bit further along. She's been home, I think, like 2 weeks, maybe a little more, a little less. I'm not sure.
I feel like it's not quite that long because she says that when she gets hurt by Adebempe hitting her hand, when she's still got, you know what I mean? You're right. It had been 2 weeks since I returned. Yep.
Yeah.
You're right.
So this is the day of their coronation.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a big day. Everybody is excited. Everybody is in good spirits. She is still recovering. Like you just mentioned, her finger is still all fucked up. But because this is a big day and she wants to look fly, she is taking the bandage off. And that's how her finger gets hurt.
Yeah, I do like that. She's just like, that's my fault.
And she calls in Aduke and says, I need a favor. And after a few beats, we find out that she wants her. She says, how quickly can you make up a song?
Yeah.
I love it.
Aduke's like, let me show off for a second.
Right? Like, have you
I
met
like
me?
that about her.
And we find out just like, you know, how happy Jeet is that she's back and how he has been by her side literally every second of every day, taking care of her, nursing her back to health, carrying her back and forth to the bath. It's just, you know, it's very,
There's
very, very
still
good.
no confirmation that they like did it.
Nope. The closest we get is he says something to her about how she has to be careful because she's still recovering. And he says, no exercise or sudden shocks. And she says, no shocks at all? You didn't feel that way last night but he cuts her off. So we don't know how that sentence ends.
And I have been fooled before, thinking that this means that they had sex, and I was wrong. So, fool me once.
I assumed that they had
the
sex
fooler.
this time. I was ready to be fooled. I was like, they fucked. They fucked.
Okay.
But then, like, you know what? Maybe not because... Well, no, she says last night, and so she's maybe healed up enough for that. Got her strength back. I don't know, y'all. I like to think they fucked by now. And there's a moment with Dio after she's dressed, and it just sounds like she looks fucking amazing. I just have to say, this description of her outfit, her makeup, her hair, even she is looking at herself in the mirror like, God damn. You know, I look like a fucking... You know, I don't even look like a human at this point. I look like something else. I'm on a whole other level.
Yeah, she describes how, like, normally they try to make her look warm, but she has a much colder, more remote look that is, like, it's still beautiful and it's very impressive, but it's not the vibe they normally go for with her outfit.
She describes it as looking as untouchable as a star, lovely and terrible, the glittering empress from the watching wall. Like, this is on some... This is a special, very special day shit. This is a
Beyonce feeling for me.
It really is, really. In Dio, there's a moment where he is looking at her and he says, it's how I always thought you'd look when you came back. And it's just, it's so sweet.
It is.
So, she has asked,
so much.
Oh my God, he just was, I love that there was no feeling from this author of like, I have to complicate Dio and make him dark and bring him, you know what I mean? And corrupt him a little bit for tension's sake, you know? She just let him be pure the whole time. And I really appreciate that because you don't get that often, you know? There can sometimes be a push where every character has to have, you know,
Their torments.
Yeah, you know, they're not interesting if they don't have like this inner conflict all the time, and you know, they're not just walking the fine line of what's okay and what's not okay. She just left him alone. And the ways in which she made him complicated were around his, you know, his sexuality and whether or not he was going to be the kind of person that wanted a sexual relationship with somebody, and whether he was going to have children. Like, that's the way she chose to make that particular character sort of more layered and give a little complexity to him. And I just really appreciated that. Like, not every character has to fucking, you know, have a moral, I don't know, like a war inside themselves of, you know, what kind of person they're going to be. You know what I mean? Some people are just who they are, which is just lovely people. And I just feel like you don't get that a lot. If you're a good
enough person, just living your life is like enough of a trial, because you take everything so seriously anyway. That's plenty.
Yeah. Agreed.
Not to say that if you are going through shit that you are a bad person. I'm just saying character wise, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
so everybody agrees she looks beautiful. She gets a chance to tell Aduka exactly what the favor it is that she wants. And what it is she just says, do you remember the memories I showed you of my childhood? When the Emperor and I enter the hall, I want you right by my side. And on one condition, I said, closing my eyes, sing to me, Addie. And she says, I reached for her hand and squeezed. Keep my story in your head. The waitings, the questions, the normal, boring parts, the parts that make me human. I don't want to forget. And so I was reading this, and I was just like, I didn't understand what this was. Right? I didn't understand what this was. I wish I did, but I didn't. I was like, is she? I couldn't get what Tar was afraid of.
I understand that. Yeah, same.
Because the way she's talking to Aduke is not casual. It's like if she had said, I want you to stay with me in court, always by my side, reminding me, I would have been like, oh, well, she wants to make sure she doesn't lose touch as a ruler, right? She wants someone to remind her where she came. But ma'am, I haven't heard that in so long. I have not heard that expression in so long. Oh my God. But yes.
I really think that my references are fucking like current. Shit is old as hell. She got married, divorced, and then remarried to the same man in the time that this happened.
Oh fuck. But right. So, but that's not what she's asking. She's talking about today. She says, I need you by my side today in the hall. So I'm like, there's something happening at Coronation that she's afraid of. And I couldn't really get down to what it was. I don't know. Did you get it when you were reading it first? Like specifically what she was?
What I was sort of thinking, and I feel like it's sort of in the chat, Patrick says she used to have a little, now she has a lot. Not a funny joke if you don't know Jenny from the Block, unfortunately.
But luckily
that's
for
most
us,
of my humor is like, yeah, well, I'm sorry if you didn't have my very specific taste in music, then this is not fun for you.
But see, Patrick is here and he understood the assignment.
He gets it. Appreciate you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just don't be fooled by these rocks that she's got.
What a whole ludicrous thing that was, right? Like, Megan, can we all?
Oh no, I don't think that was him. I'm pretty sure that was that. Fitty.
Oh my God!
You walked into it. So, thank you. Appreciate you.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
I don't remember who it was, to be perfectly honest. Maybe it was Luda.
I can't. Let's just move on. I just wanted us to all have a moment where we all agreed that whole like thing that she was on was just, ridiculous.
I think that like it was unclear. It felt more like almost, and it's sort of what I was starting to say was it feels like it's sort of borne out in the moment. But what it felt like to me was that the moment of being crowned is like sacred to her in a way that if she goes into it with the wrong mindset today, that's going to have some sort of like permanent effect or be the model of how she thinks of her rulership from then on.
Gotcha.
So she wants to keep in mind her own humanity and not get caught up in the worshipfulness, because they really treat her like she's not just a person.
Right.
So she wants something to balance that out a little bit for her and not let it completely inflate her head, Yeah. Inflate her head feels like simplistic because it's not just about ego. I don't know how else to describe it though, because like talking about believing your own hype, that is a different energy than people literally seeing you as a god.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So, like when we get to that moment when it happens and we see it in real time, I was like, oh, that was fucking genius to make sure that Aduke was there, like ready to counteract that. But as she's asking for this favor, I did not get where it was going at all. I really didn't.
Yeah. I sort of thought that was what it was, but because, like you said, her asking is formal, I thought it's got to be more than that. And so, yeah, I agree. It sort of seemed like there was a event specifically that she was preparing for, like a moment within the coronation.
Right.
And I get what you mean. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, they go through the coronation, and she definitely has a moment where she is just starting to feel like she is above humanity. Why shouldn't they worship me? I liked it a lot. A manic thought passed through my brain. Why not believe them? They're calling her a god. Why not just believe that they're right? And the songs bring her right out of that and bring her back to herself. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. We are already over 2 hours. I don't know when this is going to cut off, so I'm just going to try to hurry up. And I don't know what Crowdcast is doing.
We'll be all right.
Last time too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all right.
So they have this beautiful ceremony. It does sound beautiful. And Bali is there. All the old council are there because they have to be here for this. And it's lovely and as grand as you think it's going to be. Everybody starts giving their gifts from around the realm. And then the lady from Swana shows up. And she's just like, I'm sorry, our package couldn't be wrapped. And I'm like, oh shit, what's this? But what's about to be this? And what it is, it's Melu. And
he pops out of a cake.
He wearing a little sash.
Yeah.
And
congrats, graduate.
And his appearance, freaks out the court because, they don't just be seeing, these beings every day on any kind of regular ass Tuesday. And she yells that, it's fine, it's okay. And then just in the cutest moment ever, launches herself into his arms like a little girl. Like it is.
I love this.
So cute. And he loved it. And I loved it. I loved it. He loved it. I loved it. He loved it.
Agree. He
says,
because it'd be really easy to look at her as like the product of his enslavement and be like, I don't want anything to do with you.
Yep. Or even to just like look like that. Also, to look down on her is, he is this otherworldly being with like immense power, and she is, granted of him, but human, and like to your point, not something that he created willingly with his consent,
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to hold any of that over her or against her. And he grabs her and lifts her up in the air and says, "Well met, behold what is coming." And then he basically is like, "I'm going to give you a wish." And what he does is he brings out the cuff. And for a second, she's really
when
worried.
she sees it, she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
He
like,
has to be like, calm down.
Yeah, like, I was like, you should put that away. And he says to her, and I love to, he's laughing through most of this. And he says that he's impressed, I think, that she knows what it is right away. And he's like, "Oh, I see you recognize the pale arch your mother used. As did Inoba before her," which it reminded me of that. I had forgotten about that part. And then he destroys it and leaves just the tiniest little bit of ash left, which is basically going to contain one wish that he's granting her. But she has to wish it now, which I don't love that, but what can you do?
Yeah, that's one of those things that it's like, well, I mean, you could have at least mentioned that's what you were doing as you were breaking it. So I had a second, but okay.
You could have RSVP'd and told me that you were going to be doing this, and I could have been way more prepared.
Just as a little thought experiment, what wish would you want? I'm coming to your thing, by the way.
Yeah, but don't make any assumptions. I'm totally not giving you a wish. So she cycles through the obvious wishes, and what she lands on. Oh, I want to mention too, really quickly, at the coronation with all of her council there, she has the crocodile mask from Zuri, and she has it on what would have been his place of honor. And we find out that the people of Jabanti have been told that Zuri was the crocodile. So now he is having like a legacy there. Like I think she says they sing his name in the streets or something now, right? And she has a whole little like side trail of thought about wondering about whatever happened to Zuri because they never found his body. But she says, "I've searched for him with the ray and haven't had any hits." So she thinks he has to be dead, but she also is like, but who knows? So, just putting that out
maybe
there.
that's going to be a thing that she brings into her next book. It's like, psych, Zuri's still alive.
I
wouldn't be mad at her if she was like, he is too hot to kill.
I mean, he was a man with a purpose. You gotta love a hot guy with a purpose.
Yep.
But so she cycles through these, possible wishes, and then she lands on one, and she shares it with Dio through the ray. Initially, it seems like he is a little taken aback by whatever this wish might be, because she says, "Please, it's the only way forward." And then, in his way, he trusts her and gives her the go-ahead nod. And her wish is that the rays of Inoba would no longer be bound to a man and woman from the house of Canelo. That instead, from this day forward, the rays and their power will belong to the people of Arsar. And that's it.
So it could be anybody.
She's given it away. She's given the power that only belonged to the family through the bloodline and making it available to, in her words, whoever is best suited to bring peace to the empire. And the crowd is
and basically he's like, so what happens if somebody was good and then they're not? And she's like, well, it's a fickle thing. Maybe it just, goes. And I was like, that would be wild. Like, you have all this power, it's starting to really get to your head, and then you wake up and that shit is just gone.
It's gone. Imagine though. Imagine if that's how power worked.
That'd be amazing.
It's the ultimate workaround to the whole, like, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, nobody can have that much power. That's the workaround, right? The minute you become unworthy of that much power, untrustworthy, dangerous, whatever, it's gone that fast. Like, imagine if that
That's
was the
something
way
that
it
I
works.
actually really like, and I understand that it can be sort of an oversimplification, but there's a book series that I covered, The Young Wizards, and the point of being a wizard in that is that you are working toward the ultimate good of the universe, and if you do anything knowingly that doesn't align with that ultimate goal, your power lessens and vanishes.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, so the whole thing is that they are never fighting other evil wizards. It's always a bigger, more like nebulous sort of enemy that's entropy. But all of the other wizards that they meet, even if they're not particularly likable, are still bound by this very strict moral guideline.
Oh,
And I
I
think
like
that's
that.
like really interesting, you know?
Yeah, that is.
So
That is interesting. Also, I like that idea because then I'm really curious to read the books or hear, because then if the conflict isn't going to be like internal, the whole like, will he be on the good, will he go to the dark side? That whole fucking thing.
right.
If that's off the table, then what is like the tension and the conflict? Like what does the author do? Very interesting.
Well, I will tell you one thing is that occasionally it does come down to, is it worth losing my power to do this thing? And you have to decide that, like
that's a good
maybe,
question to have to ask yourself though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And sometimes they think that it is. And to be perfectly honest, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you can know that, no, it doesn't align with the ultimate goal of the best for the universe. But you don't want this like person you love to die. So yeah, of course you're going to sit there and be like, should I just stop being a wizard so that I can keep this person alive? I mean, that's a valid question. But they're very good books. It was really fun to cover them. I just wish I never got to actually completely finish the series. The commissions for it were sort of like inconsistent, and there was a lot of space between them sometimes. So I would sort of lose track of where I was in the story. And I'd like to go back through and like read them in a straight shot. Anyway, but yeah, the idea of power that vanishes when you're not worthy of it anymore. It's just like the fucking wish fulfillment of that is truly.
Yeah. it's startling, right? Like,
yep.
I love that you call it wish fulfillment because that's exactly what that is. And then there's this moment,
story.
right? There's this moment where I love too that everybody in the background is just like, what? What did she say? What is she doing? What did they say?
Yeah.
And she thinks immediately because he says to her, well, since the Ray is going to choose the most worthy, heirs won't really be a thing. There are not going to be any royal families. And she thinks to herself, well, shit. Without the Ray, if I had a child, it wouldn't be my legacy anymore. It wouldn't be like a little thing that's just going to be something I put all my shit onto. It could just be a child. It would just be my kid. I love that moment for her because it doesn't.
It's so cool,
right? It doesn't commit her to being like, oh, well, she's definitely going to have children now. But it just opens up the possibility for her to have children in a way that she's comfortable with, which we know from what she's told us she was not interested in doing.
Yeah,
with the way that the way that this worked prior. So I love.
And it's also
I
fascinating
love that
to be like we're so used to it being the heir is feeling the pressure of needing to live up to their parent, but you're looking at it now as like monarchy is a prison for the parent as well, because now their kid represents something and has to like fulfill a legacy, and it's not necessarily something the parent wants either. And yeah, I just really like that being addressed from the other side.
Yeah, agreed. And it was a very unexpected moment, so I was like, I didn't think that they were going to go there in this moment with Melu, but I was glad that we came back to that as well.
Yeah.
And so he grants the wish. He says the mask of Oba and Oberbaron will retain their power. But due to the wording of your wish, even those not necessarily even those will not necessarily choose a man and a woman. The next ray bearer could truly be anyone. So it's not even that the mask are going to choose. It's just going to be whoever. And she says, it's not, I don't think it's going to be a problem because one, I think you're very good at finding things. And even if you weren't, and she touches the mask, these masks tend to make their way to the people meant to have them. I like that a lot too. And then, they talk about what happens if the person is no longer worthy. There's a fantastic moment where fucking, it's at the very, very end. It's like the very end of the book. Minya is like, prove it. Prove you're still worthy.
That was good. Yes. Like,
That was so
bitch,
fun.
now that you set this little rule up, I think it'd be mighty interesting if we just put it into practice real quick. See how much you like your wish now.
Yeah, I love that so much. There's also a mention of Minya too when they're having the battle with Yojiji when she's still in the underworld and she sees Ji fighting and she sees Minya and she is like leading her fire benders into the fray.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, it's just like her hair was like a pennant, you know. It was a nice moment. I meant to mention it when we were there. But yeah, so she the last thing she says to Meilu about this wish is that, thinking of Zuri, that because Meilu says, what if the old council cannot love the new ray bearer? This is a situation where a ray bearer has formed a council, becomes less worthy, loses the ray, and a new person shows up. And he says, what if the old council cannot love the new ray bearer? Which I would have said they would choose their own council, wouldn't they? But he said, but that's not what she says. She says in response to that, what Zori had told her, which is that they don't need to love the ray bearer. They just need to love the story that the ray bearer represents. The story of peace, of justice at any price. And then everybody has a reaction to that. And she is feeling like her childhood self again. Like, my God, what am I going to have to do to get out of this? How am I going to convince, like when she had her other edicts and decrees and people are, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Howard the Noble. She thinks that's what's happening again. Right.
Yep.
She's just thinking like, fuck, I'm going to have to fucking deal with all this and convince these people that what I'm doing is like why I'm doing it and that it's okay that I'm doing it and that it's right that I'm doing it. But that's not what's happening. And then Minya is the one who just basically starts speaking over everyone, and everybody in the room just sort of joins her. And it's Minya, and she is chanting a sun for the morning, a sun for the evening, and a moon for years to come. And then everybody starts, like the whole everybody. Yeah. Tarisai for the morning, Ikadundeo for the evening, and peace for moons to come. And she is so overwhelmed. And I love this. She says that the sound was different from when she first entered the hall. It was different from the cheers from her first rulings because this sound had kindness to it. Like the third chord in a harmony wrapping around the hall. How fucking good is that?
Yeah.
That is so good. That is so good. That is so good. The sound had kindness to it. That is because I know exactly what she means. Like, you know what she means, right? Like,
oh yeah,
love.
There's a sound to everything, and yeah, you know immediately when you're hearing shouts whether it's like a good or bad thing, and whether it's just a crowd being hype or something exciting or good is happening. Like, yeah. 100%.
Love this sound, this new chaotic ocean roaring my name. It was filled with love. And then that's when Minya comes in. And yeah, she yells. She's nervous because she's got to see if the mass is going to respond. And she cries out, Oberbaron. And the word ricocheted and everybody waited. And then the lights flash. And it ends, you guys. That's how it ends.
That's the end.
Yeah. Very, very good.
So,
I really enjoyed both of these books. Hey, it's 2:22 and 22 seconds on the recorder when I looked.
Wild. RoShawn has a thing with that, guys. It's 2:22 when she looks at the clock all the time.
All the time. All the
All
time.
So, what would you rate these two books out of 10 on the RoShawn scale?
Thoroughly enjoyed them. Book 1 is a 10 out of 10, and book 2 is probably like a 9 out of 10, maybe an 8. I feel like a 9. I think it deserves a 9. I really only had the 2 critiques, which were really just about the pacing in the underworld versus the pacing of the first 3 parts of the book, or 2 parts if you think about it in thirds. And the sort of like, I would have liked the Abiku to be a little fleshed out more, so I had a better grasp of like what was going on down there.
Yeah, agree.
And their motivations. But other than that, really, no other notes. I just love this world she created. It was so beautiful to read about. I love the language that she used, the language that she gave me to use to talk about her story. I have not really read a lot of what people like Afrofuturism, you know. I started Parable of the Sower.
Yeah.
I still have not finished.
Absolutely devastating.
That shit is hard. It's so hard, and I still haven't finished it. It's really, really good, but I haven't finished it because that shit is fucking heavy. This was just. It was just wonderful. I highly recommend it.
Yay.
It was just really good. Yeah. Enjoyed.
Good. I'm delighted.
Yeah. Good call. Good call.
I really hope that the people who wouldn't have picked this series up see that we covered it and decide to check it out.
I hope so too.
And I'm really interested to see if she does do another book in this universe, because it sounds like she's just planning on it. Like she's in the middle of it. I also desperately hope Netflix does the fucking series. I really, really want to see it on the screen. Bad.
She, on her Instagram, she posted something, a first draft of whatever she's working on is completed. Ooh. So, yeah.
Nice.
What was I about to say? There was something I really, I wanted to mention in her acknowledgments, right? In her thank you, she talks about when she wrote this, right? And she wrote this really quickly, and she wrote it in 2020, right as COVID and the country erupted around George Floyd. And she talks in her acknowledgments about the anger that she felt and the helplessness that she felt, but also like the sort of like, I don't know what the word I'm trying to search for, but the feelings of seeing people in the movement and like seeing people like on the streets and like demanding justice and everything. And reading that, it makes a lot of the beginning of the book with Tar make a lot of sense. All the time that's spent with Tarisai being really like overwhelmed and consumed with this like search for justice and how far she's willing to go to achieve it, right? When you think about the
feeling
real world.
isolated. Yeah.
And like, so when you think about all of that in this, when you're talking about the story, a lot of it just makes so much more sense, you know?
Yeah.
And in the entire time that you and I talked about these books, it was impossible to read them and not talk about our real life situation, you know, and how we live and how people in power behave and the ways we wish it could be sort of constrained or mitigated, and what a perfect world would look like, and like you said, wish fulfillment, and just really, really good.
She said that there are whole pages of stuff that she doesn't remember writing. She picks it up the next day and it's in her handwriting, and she's like, word? Oh, okay. Which is crazy. That's like, I just can't imagine that feeling, you know? But yeah, I appreciate how like forthright she is about mental health struggles and all of that in the midst of writing this, but also just in general. Like, she talks about it on her Instagram as well.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Huh. I'm so excited now that I can follow her Instagram. I'm so excited.
Yeah, she's delightful.
I think I said it to Natasha before we were recording. I don't know if we were recording or not, but I said as soon as I finished the book, the first thing I did was go to Instagram to follow her. Because I had been avoiding it, obviously, for spoilers, you guys. So, like, I knew she had a really fun one because Natasha had told me about it, but I had to stay away from it. First thing I did.
All right. Well, we are way over time, and I have to go walk the dogs. It's 10 p.m. So we had better wrap this up.
Yeah, we should.
I really am so glad that you enjoyed this so much. I was hopeful, and just makes me very happy.
Yeah.
I hope everybody listening has enjoyed the coverage as well.
Yep. One last special shout out to Patrick, who joined us for every recording and I believe read along with me chapters at a time and was unspoiled and was just ride or die for this project. And thank you for your support. It was a lot of fun getting to spend time with you in these moments, especially because it was
if Patrick had not shown up, there would literally be nothing in the chat at all. And that would be pretty difficult to justify even doing lives at all at that point. So appreciate you a lot for that.
Really do. Thank you for hanging out with us for this. It was a lot of fun, and it was cool to chat. So
Yay. All right, guys. Well, we're going to be moving on to Ted Lasso next week. So if you haven't listened to that, go check it out. And I guess we'll see you on the other side. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Capitalism is a crime.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.